Well, hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I'm so excited to welcome our special guest, Mariama Boney, who is the president and CEO of Achieve More LLC. She is an award winning educator. And the thing to know about Mariama, I think, is just that she is really a transformative, solution focused consultant. And her skills in facilitation, training, and consulting are widely respected across many different industries. I had the privilege of meeting Mariama through the association sector, but her work definitely has impact far and above our sector. She's worked with lots of different organizations to help them implement their strategic goals, expand learning, and really implement the vision and the mission of their organization. So I'm really excited to have her today. Mariama, welcome.
Hi, welcome everyone. Thank you so much, Camille, for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, Mariama, we're going to jump right in because there's a lot that we need to talk about
Yeah,
today, and I can't wait for my audience to dive in with us and really hear more of your expertise directly and learn more about you. You have an interesting background. You are a mental health professional. Your specialty is social work. Then you led associations for a bit, serving in different C suite roles. Now you're leading your own firm, Achieve More.
yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that journey and how you got to your current leadership role as the head of your own organization.
Sure. So I really think of my career as being kind of like a triangle. I've spent time in higher education, spent time in community nonprofits, and then also in the association community. And for me, it's really about the extension of a legacy that my parents have led. I always say I got the education bug. Both of my parents are educators. My mom, a 30 plus year school teacher, and my father, before his passing, was an educational administrator at Syracuse University. And so I just really enjoyed, as I was completing my degree in social work, the opportunity to work with students and to work with underrepresented students, students from socioeconomic backgrounds, students with learning disabilities and various disabilities as well. And then I also had an opportunity when I was finishing my master's degree to do a study tour in South Africa during the time when apartheid was ending. And so we were there for 6 weeks. We had a chance to really look at the social systems. I had a chance to do an internship with children in a disability, that children with disabilities in an orphanage. And that really cemented for me the importance of social justice. And I was a child
Yeah.
welfare major as well. And so, as I finished my master's degree, I decided that I wanted to continue to work with students and then also work with organizations. And then went on to do all kinds of things related to diversity and pluralism in higher education and multicultural affairs, et cetera, working with students, faculty, staff, administrators at about 4 or 5 different colleges, universities, and then got a little burnt out. And it was from my expertise and really being introduced to an association, the American College Personnel Association, College Student Educators International, ACPA, that I ended up, working for them as their first membership director and director of component relations. And then it just took off from there and found my additional home, my second home in associations as well. So from
Yeah.
there, worked as an executive, as a senior executive, and as an executive director of 2 associations, and then unfortunately had a really challenging experience with ethics.
Mm.
And it was, I think, from there that I decided, um, that I had started to see this theme related to leadership
Yeah.
and this element around ethical behavior within leadership. And I decided personally for myself that I wanted to figure out could I impact that, but it was hard to do within the system. So I said, well, if I step out of the system, then I think I'll have more flexibility to work with other organizations to really figure out how to help their executives and their boards focus on leadership and ethics and really continue to be the best they can be in terms of associations and association management. And I think the other thing too also is that as a woman, I wanted to ensure that given, who I am and my background and the fact that, yes, I can be a little feisty, I wanted to make sure that I could write my own journey.
Yeah.
Didn't want to feel and continue to feel like I didn't have agency over my own career. Like
Yeah.
I had to actually stay in an organization that I knew wasn't ethical because I didn't have any other financial options.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to make sure that um, I had created a path for myself, that I was doing work that was true to the essence of who I was, and that also I could have agency over my own finances and not feel like I had to be within an employment structure to make that happen for myself.
Yeah. That's exciting. Thank you so much for sharing. That's a wonderful story. Why associations though? Because if you were leading them at one point, you decided to sort of step outside of them. Why have you stayed connected?
Well, I've stayed connected because I really do believe in the power of associations because, again, when you think about how I came into the field of social work, um, believing in children and families and the power of communities.
Yeah.
To me, and I worked for the Salvation Army and I did some work with pregnant parenting teens, runaway and homeless youth, et cetera. And so part of that is being able to see the nonprofit structure and
Mhm.
how that nonprofit structure was really able to help children and families. Also believe that associations do that at the industry level and fill a gap
Yeah.
that corporations cannot fill and fill a gap that um, government cannot fill.
Yeah.
And so, when we think about the most neediest individuals, and then even thinking about the industries and the way in which the industries, various industries, whether it's architecture, engineering, health, counseling. I mean, I've participated and have had clients in so many industries. The role these industries play is
Mhm.
critically important in terms of the community, and the way in which people and families and children ultimately end up being serviced. So I think that that's really important.
Yeah. Yeah. It really is. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
And a lot of your work has also been very focused on diversity, equity, inclusion, access, belonging, all the things.
Yeah.
And I spoke with a few people who named you, first among, great leaders in this particular field. And now we're entering a phase, a point in time where it's been all in the news, it's been all over social media.
Yeah.
Everything has become so terribly politicized.
Yeah.
And as a result, we're seeing some leaders of organizations pushing back
Mm,
on this work now,
yeah.
and organizations even rolling back efforts that they committed to following George Floyd's murder in 2020.
Yes.
In your view, why is this work still necessary?
Yeah.
And I'm going to give you a second part, a two-parter. What would you say to people who feel like this conversation has become so politically charged now that they're nervous about even being an ally or championing, the work?
Yeah, yeah. So, we've been here before, and I really think that people have to remember, um, that fortunately or unfortunately, in the United States, we have a we it is and we have a process by which we ultimately end up repeating cycles. And so we've been here before. This is not anything new, yet we are in a new time. And so, I've been doing this work for 20 plus almost 25 years, and there have been a plethora of people who have been doing this work even before me. And so I think what we recognize, though, is that we have always, for some reason or another, seen resistance. Right? I mean, there has been resistance in terms of women gaining the right to vote, resistance in terms of um, a lot of variety of issues related to what I consider core elements of leadership, which is diversity, equity, inclusion, access, accessibility, the climate and culture, or even the heartbeat of your organization. And so I think that, again, it's really critical that we continue to think of it that way because, quite frankly, we all need our heart.
Yeah,
If we do not have a heart, then we cease to exist. And
absolutely.
so I think of this core element of leadership like our heart. And if you were going in for heart surgery, you would want to make sure that you are keeping your heart well, that you are heart healthy, right? And that is what I would like for organizations and for leaders to think about of diversity, equity, inclusion, access as the core elements of their heart.
Yeah,
And without it, you cease to exist. You cease to progress. You cease to get to the point that we really need to be. And so when it comes to resistance, we have been through decades of resistance
mhm,
around a variety of issues. This is no different. So
mhm,
now is not the time to put our head in the sand. Now is not the time to retreat. Um, Now is the time to stand firm, be clear, and be celebratory about the work that we're doing and pour more positive energy out than the negative energy and the distractions, and the weaponization and the demonization of diversity, equity, inclusion, access. We have been here before. Yes, we are in a new time. However, I would like to think that all of the work that our ancestors have done, regardless of race, gender, ethnicity, and other elements, LGBTQ, other elements and disability, other elements of DEI and your identity. All of our ancestors have fought for us to be where we are today.
yeah,
I believe each and every one of us owe it to them and to our futures,
mhm,
and to those that are coming behind us to make sure that we create the world that we want to live in.
yeah,
And we have a responsibility for that. So, as leaders, yes, we all get afraid. And I think someone famous said, do it afraid. You
yeah,
do it afraid. We band together. We talk about our challenges, but we do it afraid, but we keep moving. Um,
yeah,
I've had an awesome opportunity over the last month or so to certainly reflect and recognize, just the other day, I was talking to someone about the Freedom Riders and recognizing that we had Black, white freedom riders of all kinds of backgrounds, recognizing the risks that they took, knowing that they could lose their lives, of which some people did, to make sure that we could progress as a society. They did it afraid. And
yeah,
look where we are today. So I think it's really important that we make sure that we keep our heart healthy,
mhm,
that DEI is the heart and soul of our organizations.
yeah,
Um, and we also do it afraid, and we keep pressing forward.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And on that same note,
Yes.
with DEIA, and I'm sorry, forgive me if I'm not
It's
using
okay.
the latest acronym, like it evolves and I lose track sometimes,
There's
So,
IDEA, there's
but
DEIA, there's
yeah,
DEI,
but
there's DEIB, like, it's all
yeah. Yes, yeah. Yeah, so sometimes it can be a little bit of an alphabet soup, but we know, at the core of it,
yeah.
what's important and what those tenets are. But
Yes.
speaking of keeping your heart healthy
Yeah.
and with DEIA being the heart of the organization in your words, how can organizations keep those programs from becoming stagnant? Because I mean, most of my listeners have been there, right? Where if they're at an organization that has a program, it was put into place. A lot of organizations sort of, you know I don't want to say hastily, but really wanted to be in the moment in
Yeah.
2020 and
Yeah.
put together staff-led, staff-driven activities and programs. And now here we are 4 years later, where in some cases some of the flame has flickered out a little bit.
Of course.
How would you recommend that organizations like stop the efforts from just getting stale?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the beauty of what we do, even within association management. I mean, many of you know I've had the awesome opportunity to work with prospective CAEs over the years, over the last decade. And I say that because part of it is as we allow and raise up basically new professionals who are pursuing their CAE or are entering the field of association management, we have to continue to make sure that we are aligned with mission, right? That's one of the core elements. And so we've got to continue to look at our mission, look at our vision, do the strategic planning. And if you're doing the strategic planning, then you are hopefully refreshing that every couple of years, right? I'm also the chair of the ethics committee this year. So if you have a code of ethics, which I hope everyone does in some
Hmm.
way, shape, or form, then hopefully you're looking at that and updating that every year. So that's where whether you decide that you're going to have a separate divert DEI um, plan and partnership with your strategic plan, or whether you decide you're going to integrate it into your strategic plan. Also, we know DEI should be an element of your ethics, um, code of ethics as well, code of conduct. So there's plenty of places and
Hmm.
opportunities where you can include these core principles in the everyday work that you're doing. And just like you need to continue to keep the organization fresh, of course you would refresh what you're doing as it relates to programs, products, and services, because you also have members. You have donors, you have vendors, you have sponsors, and those change from year to year. Members
Yeah,
change from year to year. And so it's no different, right? We have
yeah.
to look at what people's needs are and make sure that we're integrating them in and throughout the work that we're doing.
Yeah.
And if you need help doing that, of course, Achieve More LLC is here to help,
Yeah.
uh, along with many other great
Yeah.
colleagues that are working in this space. And that's the way you keep it fresh. Just like if you decide that you're going to go out and you're going to date, or if you decide you're in a long-term relationship, yeah, things get a little stale. So, you need to put on a little something different, or change an outfit, or
Yeah.
lose some weight, or gain
Yeah.
some muscles, or whatever you need to do to continue to feel good about yourself and to continue to stay with the times.
Yeah.
So I was just saying to someone the other day, um, I think we were talking about uh uh the onesies. Fenty has these onesies out, right?
Yeah.
And they were like, "Onesies?" I was like, "Yeah, you remember the onesies with the footies we used to wear back in the day? Like, they're back now, but they're back, like, in a whole 'nother form where people are paying, like, 59 to 79 to $99 for this onesie."
That's
But
wild.
but the concept is that everything there's another saying that says, "Everything that's old is new again."
Yeah.
So that's the opportunity that we have. I mean, just think about the things that you got rid of in your closet that you're like, "Oh my goodness, I should have kept that."
Like, yeah.
Because it came back in style with a twist. So I
Yeah.
say do DEI with a twist, integrate it into all the other programs, products, services, and practices. Make sure you're listening to your members, make sure you're listening to your vendors, your sponsors, your partners, because that's what's gonna keep it fresh.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. I love that, and I love that you talked a bit about the CAE. And so, for those of you in the audience who are not from the nonprofit or association space, the CAE that Mariama is referring to is the Certified Association Executive
Yeah,
designation that people in the association management field can earn as a marker of excellence to your craft,
yeah,
really.
yeah,
And people with this credential, which I hold and Mariama holds, really, it's a process. Like, if you're familiar at all with, for example, the CPA,
yeah,
which is Certified Public Accountant credential, which most people do know about.
yeah,
It's that same type of intensive study and learning. But the CAE, I think, is really interesting because it crosses over into different programmatic areas, right? So you don't have to just learn about one thing, you got to learn about a bunch of different things. And so Mariama is one of the instructors for a prep course for that program, which I think is really important to career development in the association management industry. And and I love that you open the door for that, because the next question that I want to talk to you about is that there's really this ongoing dialogue
yeah,
in career development circles about leadership.
yes.
And as a leader who works to coach and you help current and emerging leaders, what would you say is the greatest need right now in terms of essential skills?
Yeah. So as it relates to the essential skills and whatever soft skills, professional skills, however you choose to identify those,
Yeah.
I really believe that one of the core elements that we're seeing is people's ability to work through and manage their emotions.
Ooh, that's good.
And connected to that there is how then they are making decisions
Mhm.
and communicating
Mhm.
connected to their emotions.
Okay.
So some of that sometimes crosses over on into the counseling therapy side, depending on what the root is of some of those emotions. And some of it is definitely driven um, in the coaching area and arena in terms of what we're feeling and how that comes out in terms of the decisions that we make and or what comes out of our mouths or not,
Yeah.
right? Either
Yeah.
what comes out of our mouths, what comes out via email, text message, all of that, like the whole realm of communication. And so I believe that two core skills are being able to make judgment-based decisions that are not rooted in fear
Mm.
and loss and trauma, and then also being able to also communicate from a place of confidence, authenticity, and transparency.
Wow. That's good. That's good. Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, that makes a lot of sense, because if we learn to gain mastery
Yeah,
of our emotions, that can take us so far in life, even beyond a job.
yeah.
It's in your personal life, how
Ah,
many people have lost their tempers in traffic and wound up getting into an accident or getting arrested because they cut somebody crashed into somebody or whatever. Like, it can really get out of control. That's a good point.
absolutely, but even still, when we think about when we're working with our colleagues or we're working with staff or we're working with board members, people's ability to manage their emotions, and really fine tune their decisions or fine tune their communication is what I'm starting to see are significant challenges, to the point where leaders will not make a certain decision because they're rooted in fear,
Wow.
right? Or
Yeah.
um, they will over communicate or under communicate a certain choice
Mhm.
because they haven't figured out internally the emotions of lack of confidence.
Wow. That's powerful.
So I think that there are a number of things that we're seeing where we really need to step up our game,
Yeah.
myself included. Like, we're all constantly working on everything that's coming at us and how we either compartmentalize it or manage through it such that we can be the best person that we're trying to be. And also within that, we all need to have some grace as well. And so I think that those are areas where leaders are really struggling.
Yeah.
And certainly also we know that stress and burnout, I've done some workshops on stress and burnout and have been really, really interested in terms of the impact of stress on yourself and how it leaks out to other people around you.
Yeah.
And so that those are all elements that are continuing to impact us and they impact our leadership. However, we can master it.
Mhm.
People, I think, often don't like to hear that because they want the other person to be the person responsible for how they are feeling. And yes, there are ways in which people do impact how you feel. Yet there are also many ways that you can master your feelings, manage your feelings, really connect them into your decisions and your communication. But I am seeing areas where leaders are making wonderful decisions, and I'm seeing areas where leaders are not making decisions and everything in between.
Yeah.
And the same thing goes for our volunteer leaders, like our board members, um, and just that whole partnership around being in relationship. And when I say in relationship, I mean just being with another human being in conversation and in a partnership where we have to do something together to reach a
Yeah.
goal. So, yeah, I think we've got a lot of work to do, especially given where we have been with the pandemic. Um, I think those 2 areas are kind of low, you know,
Mhm.
in our relational and emotional intelligence tank, and I think we could do quite a bit of continue to do more work around building those up.
Yeah, I think that's yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I've read some things about how emotional intelligence has suffered
Yes.
since the COVID-19 pandemic. You know, we were isolated for so long that we got used to not having to deal with each other. You know, and now people are returning to the office, and
Yeah,
people, but even outside of the return to the office, just in daily interactions, in other types of casual settings
yeah,
that we hadn't been in,
that's
for a couple years, and people are having a hard time there. So I think, yeah, that's a really great point. Thanks for lifting that.
yeah, absolutely.
And I really want to stay with the career journey for a
Oh,
moment, because as this podcast is gaining in popularity, people won't post it online necessarily. They won't say it online, but I get text messages from people I know. I get emails to my leadership email address,
yeah,
and people are admitting that they feel stagnant in
mm,
their professional journey. They aren't sure what the next step is in their leadership journey.
yeah,
How can, Mariama, people deal with feelings of stagnation in their current roles? And what do you think they need? Like, what are the steps to discover your passion and really jumpstart your leadership journey?
yeah. So I have a saying that where I say, "Always be ready," which for me which also translates into always be learning. And so, if you're always on a journey of learning, then hopefully that will allow you to think about and come and happen upon new things that excite you. And so part of it is you've got to, sometimes you do have to force yourself to make sure that you are learning. And I always
Yeah.
say to everyone at any level, do not depend on your employer to be responsible for your career success.
Wow.
We all have to take responsibility and ownership for our own career success, which means you have to invest. You
Yeah.
have to invest. So I say, put your McDonald's money, your Pizza Hut money, whatever it is, and put it in a fund, a, a bank account, whatever, that is just for you to invest in yourself,
Yeah.
because that gives you an opportunity to take that webinar that's $39 or hopefully pay for part of the conference that your VP wouldn't pay for, which has
Mhm.
happened to me.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's where, through some of that career journey where people have been wonderfully supportive of my elevation and the things that I've wanted to do. I've also been in environments where they've either not had the money or my senior leader at the time has just straight up said no.
Yeah.
And so that's where for me, for when I was as an executive and was an executive director, professional development was always really important to me. And it doesn't have to cost you a whole lot. There are, because we're now in the revolution of learning, we're in this revolutionary time of learning. There's so much information out there, whether it's for free or a nominal cost where you can actually go and learn. So always be learning. Some people will say always be ready, some people will say always be reading. And you will find the things that excite you. And
Yeah.
again, this is also the other thing where I say, do it afraid. If there's something that you're like, I want to do that, and it's nagging at you and it's creating an emotion in you,
Yeah.
then most likely it's something that you need to just try
Mhm.
and get some supporters around you, or an accountability partner or a coach or someone to be willing to supportively challenge you to do the thing, and just do it and try it.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important, but I say invest in yourself. Make sure you have your little fund, that you start to invest in yourself. And of course, when you talk about passion, thinking about the things that excite you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, and and I've heard it this way also, if you could do it for free and would still be happy doing it, what are those things? What are those top 3 to 5 things that if you didn't get paid at all, that you would love to do? And then sometimes you can backtrack it to see, are there connectors where those 3 to 5 things connect to another 3 to 5 things, and it might also get you to where you need to be. And then sometimes I'll also say that, we gotta look at the root of why we feel stagnant. Again, going back to the emotions. So please don't sit in silence and suffer by yourself. Reach out to a friend, a coach, a counselor. You've got 988. There's so many other opportunities to just say, I'm feeling a little stuck. I'm not quite sure why. Heck, call me. It doesn't have to be for a fee. Like there's so many people in our industry and people beyond, just women supporting women, um, and people supporting people, that we care about the elevation and success of people because our
Yeah.
world depends on it.
Thank you so much for that. I know it's going to help. I know it's going to help somebody that's listening.
It's
Yeah,
helped
that's
me.
powerful.
It's helped
Do
me.
you have any advice that you would give specifically for women? So
Yeah.
you mentioned women supporting women. Let's stay with that. Do you have any advice for women who are struggling to sort of find balance in their life between loving what they do, maybe, living their career dream,
Yeah.
having a family, and are feeling like, what am I, like it's I'm all
What?
over the place. How can I find my balance? Any advice there?
Oh my goodness. So I was also just having this conversation with the representatives from Black Association Executives and Latinos and the Association Latinos because we're going to be doing some good work together in 2024 uh,
Mhm.
as it relates to women and lifting up women. And part of it was that we were reflecting on this element of women playing and needing to play many different roles because we are and do birth children. And
Mhm.
so I think that is a whole nother layer of complexity, whether you have children or whether you have tried to have children or whether you are mothering other people in other ways, right? All
Mhm.
along the spectrum. And it's really important that, yeah, that juggle, you know, I have the picture in my head of, the person who is juggling multiple balls, bottles, whatever it is in the air and trying to not let one drop. And so there are times where we have to be okay that one drops because it's a learning moment
Yeah.
and take a pause to reflect on what was it about that moment where that bottle or that ball dropped.
Mhm.
And are there things that we can learn from that? Maybe I
Yeah.
don't juggle so many.
Yeah.
Maybe I have to work through my emotions
Mhm.
as it relates to how to say no. There are polite ways to say no, uh,
Yeah.
and there's ways to just say, "Not at this time,"
Mhm.
right? And so I think that's the other piece too, is you can I think Oprah said, and I don't know where she got it from, but it has always stuck with me, "You can have it all, just not all at once."
Mm. Mhm.
Um,
Okay.
and I'm sure she may have gotten that from someone as well. But I think that's really important is that we can have the things that we want. It's just it might be that we just can't do them all at once. And we've got to honor ourselves enough to be able to say, let me write down the things that I'm doing. Get a sheet of paper, get a sticky note. I have stickies everywhere. Get a sticky note and say, okay, what are the roles that I'm serving in right now?
Mhm.
And is there something that needs to come off the plate?
Yeah.
For example, when I took the role of this is my second leadership role within ASAE over the last year, decade or so. And I was also serving on a nonprofit board, and my term for the nonprofit board was winding down. And as much as I wanted to renew my term, I also knew that being the chair of a committee for, this 40,000 member organization is really important, being a vice chair, chair, and past chair. And so I had to, with my coach, evaluate, could I really do it all? And so I did have to say to the nonprofit, I'm still here as a member and can assist, but I can't necessarily, I didn't want to really continue as a board member because I have many other things happening and this other leadership opportunity. And I wanted to be able, and I want to be able to do it to the best of my ability.
Yeah.
So that's where we have to get real with ourselves. And sometimes, we have to tell ourselves no or have those truth-telling people or have those truth-telling people in our lives that are willing to say to us, you know, "Kinda stacking it up there,"
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
be okay to hear that even though we might get into our feelings a little bit, talking about, "What do you mean I can't do that?" But,
Yeah.
I think people who love you and care about you will genuinely say, like, "Maybe you are putting too much on yourself."
That's a good answer. Thank you so much for that. And
Yeah.
so, Mariama, what is next for Achieve More?
So, very soon, we will be announcing a partnership with the Black Association Executives and Association Latinos as it relates to women in associations. So that is a year-long journey that we're going to be on together because we think it's critically important that women are elevated and are also working on systemic issues to continue to advance. So
Mm,
that's going to be coming. Um, and we also are going to be having some products that are connected to a element called Visionary Exec to be rolled out very soon as a way to really help us feel positive about who we are as executives.
mm-hmm.
I think the world, we know that in general, the many people in communities don't trust executives as much, and corporate executives as much given what's been happening in the world. And so sometimes we need that extra boost at whatever level you are at as an executive, um,
Yeah,
and or serving in associations or serving in leadership. We need positive images that make us feel good about staying connected. So I have
yeah,
a line of products that will be coming out in that regard, and then also a series of webinars and workshops that will be coming out to talk about the hard stuff. I think
yeah,
that we have spent a lot of time talking about the easy things, and we're going to be putting some programs together that will help people to begin to talk in community and safe places and spaces with each other about the hard topics.
yeah,
And that's one of the ways in which we continue to align and stay together and come together as a community of learners and
yeah,
executives and women and leaders, is we
yeah.
have to be able to have those spaces where we can have those honest, transparent, authentic conversations, get answers, support one another, um, whether whether we're women or individuals who are supporting women as allies.
All right. So, where can people find you, Mariama? How can they find you if they want to get in touch?
Certainly. So I really enjoy LinkedIn. So definitely you can find me, Mariama Boney on LinkedIn. Achieve More LLC also has a company page on LinkedIn. I have Achieve More LLC is on Facebook. We are also out there on Instagram now, y'all.
All right.
And we also, I also have a Twitter page. So, I mean, so if Google me. You should be able to find me on all of the platforms. I even had a friend challenge me to get on TikTok, so I'm now on TikTok doing
Uh-huh.
goodness knows what, but just throwing up things that, all kinds of just, things that are on my mind or, um, spaces and places. I love live comedy and I love entertainment, so I like to be able to share those. I love movies.
That's
I like
fun.
to share those things as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm out there on most all of the social media platforms,
Okay.
in some way, shape, or form if you need something.
Okay, I love it. So you heard it here, folks. You can find Mariama on LinkedIn, on most social media platforms, and you can also Google her organization, Achieve More.
Yeah,
Mariama, it has been a pleasure talking with you. Thank you for sharing time and wisdom with us today. I
yes.
know this podcast is really going to help some people. It helped me just listening to you. And you always have such a calm and soothing demeanor. Listeners, she's always sort of got this cool, calm, collected demeanor. And it really is, I think, at the core of who she is. So thank you so much, Mariama. I have enjoyed this thoroughly. And listeners, until next time.